Hello everyone, I'm back in Kecara Forest Retreat, Bentong, Malaysia, and today I will continue reading from page 195 from the book The Promise, which is the biography of my Guru, His Eminence the 25th Sem Tuku Rinpoche. I never learned Tibetan writing, reading, or the language well. I found it easier to use English and study in English. To this day, I can't write Tibetan and can barely read it. My Tibetan is poor. Sem Rinpoche, on some of the challenges in communication he faced while in Ganden. Caption of the picture on page 196. This was the letter Rinpoche had sent his good friend, Diane, in America, which she has kept until today. Page 197. Although the financial hardship that he endured occasionally caused the young Rinpoche to feel disappointment, nothing could have prepared him for the next major setback that would affect his life up to this day. During a trip to Dharamsala, while on a personal quest to have a tanka painted of Dorje Shugden, Rinpoche discovered that the Dharma protector whose practice he had received from His Holiness Kapje Dzong Rinpoche was clouded in controversy, and many artists refused to paint Dorje Shugden's likeness. This was the first time that Rinpoche had heard about the restrictions on this protector's practice and the nasty rumors that were spreading in the Tibetan community. He was in shock and his thoughts in turmoil. He could never give up the practice of Dorje Shugden because it would mean breaking his promise and commitments to His Holiness Kapje Dzong Rinpoche, his root guru. Yet not giving up the practice would mean that he was going against another of his gurus, albeit one to whom he had not made any specific commitments with regards to this protector. Caption of the picture: a beautiful poignant view from inside the prayer hall of Dzong Ladrang. Still in Dharamsala, Rinpoche locked himself in his tiny room in Ganden Shatse's Shapten Kang, crying and engaging in prayers, making copious offerings of Sirkim, golden drink, to Dorje Shugden, and offering a continuous stream of sang, incense, from his window until the heat from the incense pot charred the window sill. After 3 days of torturous thinking, contemplation, and meditation on what to do, Rinpoche finally emerged from his room, having decided to continue with his practice. That's when he met his friend, an older Troku, who, after listening to Rinpoche's concerns, gently chided him, saying that he could quietly practice and still respect His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and that there would be no conflict in this. After that, Rinpoche calmed down, remembering that it was the norm for Gelugpa practitioners to hide their practices, especially those of a tantric nature. Rinpoche had described that period of coming to terms with the issues surrounding Dorje Shugden's practice as one of the most depressing times of his life, as he was being forced to choose between two of his gurus. Decades later, with the escalation of the Dorje Shugden controversy, Rinpoche has emerged as one of the few lamas fearlessly speaking up for the rights of Dorje Shugden's practitioners, and continues to transmit the sacred practice of Dorje Shugden to his students. Caption of the picture on the left: Rinpoche's personal Dorje Shugden Tanka, which many artists refuse to paint. And on the left, on the right, an example of Rinpoche's effort to speak up for the rights of Dorje Shugden practitioners. As you can see, Rinpoche is holding the sign, Dorje Shugden, my practice, my life, my choice. Page 199. Meeting Zong Rinpoche again. Caption of the picture. Rinpoche made extensive preparations for many months leading up to when Zong Rinpoche's incarnation returned to the monastery. He saved his meager funds to purchase a Manjushri statue so that he could offer it to the new incarnation of his most precious root guru. It would be his first offering to Zong Rinpoche in this current incarnation. When the young Zong Rinpoche finally received the statue, he loved it. Of all the offerings Zong Rinpoche received when he was enthroned in the monastery, he asked most often for the Manjushri that Sam Rinpoche offered to him. He held it often and kept it by his bed. Page 200. After all the difficulties and loneliness experienced in the first few years, a light emerged, bringing to life the reason why Rinpoche had come to Ganden in the first place. His Holiness Kapje Zong Rinpoche's incarnation was soon discovered and invited back to Zong Ladrang at Ganden, where he would begin his monastic training. His guru was back. Every day, the 3-year-old Zong Rinpoche would come out of Zong Ladrang, look towards the cowshed and say, "Hey, you, come here. Who are you? What's your name?" The little Zong Rinpoche's tone and the manner in which he addressed Rinpoche indicated that he was above Rinpoche in rank. This was not meant to be derogatory, but was normal protocol at the monastery and acknowledged as part of the special relationship between high lamas and their students. If he had addressed Rinpoche as an equal, it would have been considered condescending. Page 201. When the newly recognized current Zong Rinpoche first met me at Ganden Monastery, he immediately waved at me, called me over to him, and addressed me as his junior. He asked me to come towards him, stretched both his hands up to me, and asked me to carry him. I carried and hugged him tight, knowing in my heart that my beloved root guru had returned. I played with him, and he stared at me deeply, as if trying to remember something. Sam Rinpoche. Rinpoche answered humbly, Tenzin Sopa. "Oh, Sopa Rinpoche." Zong Rinpoche would take to calling him Sopa Rinpoche henceforth, even though Sam Rinpoche had not even been officially recognized as a Rinpoche or reincarnated Lama yet. He was still known simply by his ordination name, Tenzin Zopa. Rinpoche would ask the young Zong Rinpoche, "Can I pick you up and bring you for a walk?" "Sure." Rinpoche would carry him and walk around the garden surrounding the Ladrang. The little boy would talk, ask questions, and often come to Rinpoche's room unannounced. For many months, Zong Rinpoche would always ask, "Who are you?" Rinpoche would then reply, "I told you yesterday." "But who are you? What's your name?" "You are Sopa Rinpoche." Again, as in Zong Rinpoche's previous life, they had an unusually special relationship and a closeness that seemed like it could have only come from a previous time. Despite their age difference and the difference in their ranks, Their relationship was always like that of two very special old friends being reunited. Page 202. And you see the young Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche reincarnation. Page 203. Caption of the picture. This photo of Rinpoche and the current incarnation of Dzong Rinpoche was taken in Ganden Monastery in 1990, when Sam Rinpoche was 25 years old. Page 204, caption of the picture. Sam Rinpoche held the young Dzong Rinpoche on his lap while they sat at the front during one of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teachings in Dharamsala. Page 205. Contact with his birth parents. Caption of the picture. Dewa Nimbo, Rinpoche's biological mother. During Rinpoche's first few years at Ganden, his birth mother, Dewa, would write to him often. They maintained regular correspondence and exchanged many letters over the years. However, in all her writings, she alluded to herself only as an aunt, never really revealing or suggesting in any way that she was his birth mother. One day, she wrote to tell him that she had separated from her husband and was now living with her two sons. She had received her PhD in Asian Studies and was teaching at Indianapolis in America. In the letter, she also said, "I'm struggling to take care of my kids. I'm sure you're struggling in Ganden. If you have trouble, look for my guru, Sokpo Rinpoche, Guru Deva Rinpoche, in Nepal. When I finish with school, I'll send some money." Page 206. On 1st January 1990, Sokpo Rinpoche Guru Deva invited Rinpoche to visit him at his ladrang in Nepal. The invitation came out of the blue via a telegram, which read, "Come to Nepal as soon as possible. Immediately. Come now." As Sam Rinpoche did not have enough funds to travel, he sought the advice of his guru, His Eminence Lati Rinpoche, who advised that it would be very good for him to go and not let any obstacles deter him from making the journey. Khenso Jampa Yeshe Rinpoche even lent him the expenses needed for the trip. The Mongolian Lama Sokpo Rinpoche, also known to be an emanation of Dorje Shugden Genze, knew Rinpoche's birth parents and Rinpoche's family background very well. It was Sokpo Rinpoche who gently explained Rinpoche's family background to him in his ladrang in Nepal during the Losar, Tibetan New Year, celebrations of 1990, while Rinpoche sat on the floor in front of him dumbstruck. After he told Rinpoche the story, he said, "Aren't you going to turn around and greet your father?" Rinpoche turned around in astonishment and looked at an old Tibetan man sitting behind him, his face full of both pride and emotion. The old Tibetan was sitting very still, his hands shaking as he held onto an unlit cigarette that he puffed on hurriedly and nervously. Tears were running down his face. There was nowhere to hide but behind his cigarette. And you see caption of the picture, Lobsang Gyatso, Rinpoche's biological father. Page 207. Sokpo Rinpoche was the one who introduced me to my father for the first time in my life. He asked me to forgive my father. I did. Sam Rinpoche. Rinpoche got up to give him a hug, though his father remained seated, still shaking, and in that moment Rinpoche knew that it was real. When Rinpoche met his father's sons, his half-brothers, a few years later, every last doubt was removed. Rinpoche had not expected the similarity between them to be so strong. Looking at one of them, he felt like he was looking at himself. All his father had said very simply and quietly in that first encounter was, "Please forgive me, I'm sorry." These were the first words Rinpoche heard from his biological father that Losar morning. Sokpo Rinpoche asked Sam Rinpoche to forgive his father, and with an open heart Rinpoche did. His father gave him a pouch with 5,000 Indian rupees, which was a huge amount of money for the young monk. Rinpoche was relieved that he could now return the funds that Khenso Jampa Yeshe Rinpoche had lent him for the journey. Rinpoche had never ever had that much money in India. Suddenly, overnight, he had a father and a sponsor. Excited, Rinpoche wrote to update Deva about what had transpired and related this exciting, life-changing encounter. To his chagrin, she wrote one last letter to him that said, curtly, "That old man in Taiwan, I don't know who he is, and I have no relations with him. If he is your father, that's fine, but I don't know him. Never ever contact me again. If you want to have a relationship with him, you do not need to have a relationship with me." Nothing seemed to make sense to the young Rinpoche, who was only finally beginning to have to put the pieces of his family and identity together. And yet it was Deva's very denial that confirms everything he needed to know of his origins. In spite of the pain he experienced in relation to his family, Rinpoche has never wished them anything but goodness and happiness. Sometimes he still shares that the only thing he would like is to be able to meet his birth mother, bring her on a pilgrimage to holy sites, and introduce sacred practices to her for her long life, happiness, and well-being. In response to the pain he has encountered and the loneliness of not having had real family for most of his life, Rinpoche turned the experience around to one of great healing and compassion. Now he strives continuously to help his students improve their own relationships with their parents, create greater harmony within their families, and bring people closer together. Page 208. The caption of the picture on the left. Rinpoche with his father, Aryan Drukchen Rinpoche, left, and a geshe at Ganden. The caption of the picture, the middle picture, Rinpoche's half-brother Lobsang Phuntsok visiting Ganden. And the caption of the picture on the right, the Mongolian Lama Guru Deva Rinpoche, also known as Sokpo Rinpoche, was an emanation of Genzei, the increased form of Doje Shukden. And with this, I will end my reading today, and I will continue on Tuesday. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for sharing your time with me. And now I will end this session with a completion dedication in Tibetan. Jang Yu Sen Cho Rinpoche, Mage Panam Ge Shi, Ge Panam Pame Payang, Gone Kondu Pe Washu, Toni To Rinpoche, Mage Panam Ge Shi, Ge Panam Pame Payang, Gone Kondu Pe Washu, Daso Jini Sapage Wadi, Dandan Roa Gunagam Padang, Jepa Jesu Losan Trapai, Tamping Nimporindu Sa Se Sho, Ge Wakunto Yandala Mada, Drami Choki Pala Lonchochi, Sadam Langi Yate Razone, Doje Changi Ngopangatus, Ge Wadi Yududa, Lama Sangyo Drione, Drua Chika Malupa, De Salago Pasho, Joki Kelpo Sungapa, Josunam Papewala, Keki Sama Siwadang, Tungi Malu Sangwasho, Dadam Sungi de Sundan, Drewa Songi Latine, Gewalo Sandrapai, Tampa Yuriva, Gyushi, Ni Modele Sendele, Ni Migunyandele Shi, Ni Sintato Dele Pel, Kunchu Sungi Jingilo, Kunchu Sungi Ngotoso, Kunchu Sungi Trasi Sho. Yes, on Lama Kusen of Thinking, Lanka Trini Jochu Padang, Losam Tempe Drome Samsung, Droe Musatatoni, Gushi, Gawe Rawe Go Wishing Come Them, Bendan Dewa Malu Go in, Shannon Zik, one Tenzing Gapsoi, Shapeshi, De Badu Den, Gushi. Home, Tompe, Watro Malupa, then de Dala Sel to So, Goda Dempa Long Chopno, Kepa So Shik Shukten Cell. Thank you.